Hey everybody, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the Siberian Elm Forest. It's the final weekend in March, and our warm, mild March with very little snow has been glorious. It continues to be so. We're expecting close to 70 tomorrow, but there's a roller coaster of weather in the forecast, so we'll talk about that in the show today. Waking up this morning, here's a prime example of that. Super sunny, looks glorious out here, but it's only 32 degrees. So that rock is on a thin layer of ice. So we've got a little bit of ice on the pond right now. There we go. And we have a couple of mornings in the next couple of weeks where it's going to be close to 20 degrees. So we're going to be in the 70s in the daytime, 60s in the daytime, and a couple of days where it's going to be 20 for the low. So quite a roller coaster ride. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we have to prepare for the forest of Siberian elm. So we've got 20 plus trees in here, and I think my goal is to have 3 mini forests when we're all done. So we're going to take all of these out of here. We're going to look at the root structure. We're going to see what we got, look at the pots that I have, and see if we can get 3 forests planted. This is all preparation for the tamarack forest that I want to plant in a couple of days as well, when the temperature is going to be super nice and warm as well. So this will be a good precursor to that. Gonna look at these trees and see how they best fit. Let's get started. As I set up the fire pit area to do some bonsai work today, I have to always keep a couple things in mind. And so I mentioned the temperature going to be going on a roller coaster ride. We want to be careful when we're repotting that the roots are not going to be damaged by super cold freezing temperatures. So all my repots will be in the garage or the cold frames on the nights that it's going to get below freezing. Plus, if any shoots have opened up on your trees, make sure that those go into protection too, because those new soft buds that are opening up with the new leaves are going to freeze, possibly get dieback. You could lose branches, you could lose an entire tree. Let's go into the garage where it's a little bit warmer, no wind, and we have to prepare a couple of the pots that are going to be used for the Siberian forest. So let's do that real quick here. So I get some of my bonsai pots from Superfly Bonsai, and I'll put a link down in the description there. And I get a lot of their oval flats. And I got these purposely for a lot of small forests that I was going to create. That the shallower the pot, you got to remember that this is going to get frozen a lot faster, and it's also going to warm up a lot faster. Your soil is going to dry out a lot faster. You'll get a lot of moisture in there. It'll, when you water, it'll just go right through, but then it's going to dry out by the end of the day because it's such a shallow pot. So when you have a shallow pot, especially in the hot summer, especially in Minnesota when it's going to be super warm for many months out of the year, we're going to have to check these trees carefully and probably water these more than any pot that's going to be deeper. This huge pot that my white paper birch was in, look at how deep that is. That's going to stay nice and moist for a lot longer because it's a bigger pot, more soil, and it's not going to dry out as fast. This is going to dry out fast. So keep that in mind when you're making your plantings, when you're going to go ahead and worry about watering throughout the year, and the temperature. So when you get a huge swing in temperature, even if the outside temperature is around 34, 35 degrees, the roots in a deeper pot might still be at 36, 7, 8. In a shallower pot, if the temperature outside is 34, 35, the roots are going to be 34, 35 very quickly after it turns that 34, 33, 32, it's going to go down in a similar speed compared to that thick pot. So these oval pots had some good drainage holes, a lot of holes for wires. So another reason this is great for the forest planting is they got all these different wires. I'm going to put about 7 to 9 trees in here. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, about 16 holes in here. So we can put a lot of trees into this forest and have a lot of potential tie down spots. Now I got this new pot to me this year, and this is a shallower pot. And I am not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure because I've only made the one main purchase this spring so far with my pots. This also came from Superfly, I do believe. I'm not 100% certain. And it's a little bit more sturdy plastic. So these guys tend to be a little bit more warpy, wobbly. And this is super solid. It's not going anywhere nearly as much. It's thicker. It has two holes here that look like drain holes and or places to tie into the tree. The wire your wire can go in here to drain, or to tie the roots down rather, tie the tree down. But what it doesn't have is a nice big drain hole in the middle. So I'm going to put a couple of drain holes in here because I want this forest also to be able to drain really well. So I'm either going to put 4 holes here, which I think I'm going to do 4 medium holes instead of one big jumbo one. I'm going to put 4 holes right there, so we're going to do that right now. It's important that we have that good drainage regardless of the depth of your pot. Again, this one will dry out more faster, so we might not want the huge holes, but we still want really good drainage. We want to control the watering. We want to control that balance of oxygen and water. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to go with the half size again. I'm going to go with the half size hole, and we're going to drill those in here so we have some good drainage on this pot. There we have 4 holes that are going to be providing better drainage for this small, flat bonsai forest that'll be the Siberian elms. I've got my drain screens right in there ready to go. So that's going to have better drainage. The soil's not going to go through the big holes, and we are set up. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. So the pots are all ready. Can't stress how important it is to get those pots ready before you start potting, especially on a day again where there's uncertainties. And the uncertainty for me is the temperature. I may have to repot these in the garage. I may not be able to go outside. If that wind is picking up, if the temp's not warming up fast enough for me, I either wait till later in the day or I just go ahead and do this in the garage because we don't want that really cold weather to hit those bare roots and give them a big shock, right? So we have to go take a check at the temperatures, go outside, see what the wind is doing, and we'll see what we can do next to prepare this forest planting. Peeking at the weather app, I don't think it's going to work today for the morning replanting anyway. So all my stuff from out here, I'm going to actually bring that down into my studio in the plant room, and we're going to have to do the transplant there. It'll be way more comfortable. I won't have to worry about my fingers getting cold. I don't have to worry about the wind making the sound kind of there. Love being outside, but you know what? It's not going to be into the 40s until after 12 noon today. That's just too cold. I don't want to risk it with the trees and the roots, and so we're going to do this inside. So let's get all of that inside the plant room, and we can start on this super cool forest plantings of the Siberian elms. Let's get to work. As much as I would like to be outside on a beautiful spring day, 34 degrees, breeze, not quite conducive to relaxing, working on the tree slowly, taking my time. So I brought it inside. We're in the plant room, and we have a forest of about 20 plus trees that we're going to put into 3 trees. 3 7 trees will be 21. I think I have 21 in here at least. Maybe we'll do a 9, 7, and a 5. You know, we'll see what happens with the trees, how they look like out of this big base of a pot. I think this is just the bottom of a plastic terracotta. No, it's just a tray. This is a great one. We'll be able to put a bigger forest with bigger trees than this one after we get these Siberians out of here. It's time to grab the tools and dig in, see what we got. Because this is such an intricate endeavor, that's why I'm inside. I got all these trees that are probably got intertwining roots. I want to be super careful. I'm going to have to take my gloves off to really maybe pinpoint some of these roots. And so being outside was just really not an option. So we're going to go ahead and see if I can get this thing to come out of this pot. Well, that really wasn't difficult at all. Not that I expected it to be. So peek at the bottom. We got some roots down there, lots of them. And again, we have no idea what's tangled with what. So we're going to have to start getting rid of some of this soil and seeing where we're at. I have moved to the chopstick because I don't want to wreck some of these roots with the root rake, and there's so many roots intertwined. As a matter of fact, look on the top right here. This is inside the forest. This is a root that I don't know if it comes to this tree, this tree, this tree, back over here. There's just so much crossing. I got this forest from a friend from the Minnesota Bonsai Society, Jeff. Jeff needed to downsize. His family was on the increase with the birth of his new daughter, and needed to get a few of the trees out of his collection. This forest, he felt, was one of those he could just part with, and so he sold it to me. It was in his pot for about 2 years at least, and then I had it all last year in my pot, so this was 3 years into this shallow pot. And as you can see, it was nothing but roots on the bottom. We've got some soil left on top that I'm slowly scraping away, but it did very, very well. So shows you the patience of letting it grow wild. Now these roots are just so wild and tangly. Some of these roots are bigger than they're thicker than the bonsai that are in the pot. So I think once we separate these out, get them into 3 separate pots, get them into some bonsai soil for the first time, these trees will take off this year. I'm super excited about that. So I'm super thankful for Jeff downsizing. I'm taking good care of his trees, I hope he believes. We'll send him a direct link to this episode so he can take a peek. Now the reason why I'm not just cutting them off at the moment is because I do want to capture what has been my theme for the year. Got some forest plantings in the works, and I love the forest up in northern Minnesota, up on the North Shore, the Superior Hiking Trail. I've mentioned it in several shows. When you go up there and hike and you see all these trails where you come up with a lot of these pine groves and a lot of these areas where the exposed root is just absolutely crazy. I got some photographs for you. Let's take a peek while I continue to work on this. As I continue to work on these roots, I could just cut a whole bunch of roots off right now, but I'm a little leery of doing that, and here's why. I do want to put these roots maybe around some roots, around some rocks rather. Maybe put a rock planting where I get a lot of trees around rocks. And so I want some longer roots that can wrap around the rocks and then work on the finer roots from there. So if I just all of a sudden start to cut these roots right now, I don't know what connects with what. I've got this big long root right here. It's a perfect example for you. Look at that long root. Does it connect on the bottom side here or the top to a tree? Looks like that's the thinner side. I just pulled and got lucky. Now I know I can cut that long root. Look at that. That's 2 feet long. You can't even probably see it in the whole camera angle here. 2 feet of root. Now that I can cut off. So I have to start teasing out some of these roots and seeing if that can happen. And once I tease out the root like that, I'll know where it starts and where it is the finest, smallest root there that I can cut out. And I'm not cutting it by the base of the tree by accident. So we'll have to do that in a little bit. So we'll keep plugging away on getting some more soil off of the top here, the surface by the edges. We'll try to force out a few trees. I say force out, I'll say force out gently. How about that? I will gently force out some trees in the coming moments of this Siberian elm forest. I cut a few roots off to get rid of that first level of clump, but we got a long way to go. So I have a couple of options here. I was recently watching an episode of Bjorn's YouTube channel, and I noticed that he took a forest that was on a slab planting, and then he just used a knife tool and he cut sections out. He cut trees out actually, and he just cut through the roots and just made a cut. So there was obviously enough roots in his structure where he felt it was okay to just cut the trees away. I might be doing something very similar with this structure right here. First of all though, I'm giving it some water, a nice little water bath on just the outside to see what I can tease away on the outside. because I know the inside will be a lot more work. That underside is super tangled still. And so now this is sitting in a tub of water here, and we got these sides. Let's see what we did to the sides here. Get my chopstick. And there you can see all of the amazing root structure this tree has to offer. This forest of trees. But look at all these long roots. Where does that root go? Now I can cut this root right in the middle, and if it goes to this tree, it's going to be okay. If it goes to that tree, it's going to be okay, because it's plenty of root, right? So I'm going to have to start making some of those decisions. Now this one just peeled right off. Letting this soak in water, exposing a few more of these roots. And gosh, look at some of these are just really thick. So I think that's going to be my next attempt here. And again, I've never worked with a forest so thick as this before. So I got a nice little pond of water here now. But like, let's say this root right here, super long, it goes both directions. If I cut it right here, it's going to be released. Oh, this one just came loose. So I know that's the bottom. This one looks like it could be the bottom over here, but yeah, there it was. I was right. I guessed right. Take a peek at these roots right here. These are still pretty entwined right here. Don't know where it's coming from. I have one little tiny tree right here. I think that was eaten by a critter, but that's the start of a new sucker, so I'll leave that intact at the moment. Here's that wobbly tree I had earlier. Yeah, and it's growing like back that direction. So that's just like one big old taproot type thing over this direction, and who knows what finer roots are where. So if I just cut this thing off right here, that's going to be, I don't know, that might be tough to repair some roots there. Cut that one there. Took a risk and cut that one there. So we'll go around here and we'll cut some of these roots that are long and going to multiple places. So then when I take the chopstick in here, I can maybe tease out some more of the roots. And remember, if they're long, I cut them in the middle, one side they're going to come out probably okay. Okay, now when I move this guy right here, it seems attached to this one. Yeah, so I gotta be careful on that one. Don't know how many fine roots or where they are, but this is a huge tangled up mess right here. This big root right here is attached to this tree, it looks like. And it's a while before it gets finer. I don't know where if it gets finer. I'm gonna go ahead and find a place way down here that I can cut it. And hope that wasn't too much. As I tease more and more out from the top as well as the underneath side now, it's apparent that the roots are so incredibly thick. This is just one mass of root system. I'm bending it like a rug, like a mat that's super thick. I might have to take a knife in here and cut some sections out if I want to split this guy up. But before I do that, I think I'm going to dump the water outside, the water that I have in the tray right now. I'm going to dump this and I'm going to put some more water on the main middle section of this and see if I can get some more water to penetrate through and soak these roots. So let's head outside and see if we can do that in the garage, because I think it's going to be in the 40s in the garage and still only in the mid to maybe 35, 36 outside right now. The rain of hundreds of years pouring down on the forest floor, hoping to get rid of some soil to expose those roots. Then underneath, we still have a ton of roots that are circling around. And look at this, right down here. This right here, this is thicker than some of the trees up above there. I don't know which one that's going to. Here we got some thick roots down there that now are sitting in some water. And we're just going to keep digging at this for a while. I can kind of poke the chopstick through a little bit now in some areas, which will help separate some things. We just got some more work to do. Might have to give it a couple of baths. And I think the knife tool is going to have to come out pretty soon here. This is one big forest that it is grown together really, really well. So I'm going to have to try to cut this into 3 forests. So I'm going to try to find some kind of pattern where I like the forest the way it looks, the way it already kind of is. And one of the biggest trees is right here in front of you, so that would be one possible forest. This has another big tree here, so there's 4 big trees right here. If I cut this thing right somewhere down here, that could be a forest, and then I could cut this one in half this way. I got this big tree here, a couple of bigger trees over there, so I think we'll go in and we will try to cut a few roots and just get to the forest. So I'm literally taking one of my scissors and I'm chopping the forest floor. I likely will cut some roots that I don't want to, but I don't think I'm going to get this separated any other way. So the first section is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees. There's a 5 forest right there. 3, 9, 10, a little tiny one here, which is incidental. 10, that could be taken into a 9, and then this is the biggest one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is a nice forest maybe for that oval pot. And there's nothing wrong with us keeping it in a pot just like this. I could soak this with more water, see if I can spread out some of these trees. Like this one right here will come out. This one might come out. That one's going to come out. These might be able to be separated a little bit. So I can add one of these trees to the other forest if I want. There we go. That one and this one. That one came out. That one's having a tough time. One's being stubborn. So I have a couple of trees. This one's super tiny but has some feeder roots. This might be okay. This one has one big jumbo curly root but a lot of feeder roots down there, so that one should be okay. This one right here is really sticking to something in there. It's growing deep in the forest. There we go. It's got that big old long root. I got some roots up here and here. So there's 3 cheap trees I can sneak in somewhere else. Loosen up this forest a little bit more here. As I continue to work on this first of 3 forests, teasing away some of that dirt from all the water I've been spraying on here, I've been able to pull off a small little sapling or 2, expose more roots of course. Once in a while when I turn it over, I'll expose a little bit of a long root like right here, and I can just pull it out if I've cut it already, or I can find that I'm in a spot where I can now cut it. and I can loosen this whole thing up even more. We still have a lot of big exposed roots down here. We have this big tree over here on the left. So here's a root right here that goes through the forest floor. Now, I want exposed roots, so that would be fantastic. So I don't even know if I want to cut that up right now. All these big gnarly roots are pretty cool. However, one other thing I believe that I have to be careful of here is that even though I want roots to go and be exposed and on the path, if we have roots that are constantly tangling amongst each other, they could, of course, cut each other off. They could wrap around and kind of suffocate the tree, if you will. So there is some of these roots that I will want to kind of separate and maybe break off and break loose up at the top here, so we don't get that over-tangling. We want most of our roots to grow down. Like this one right here is crossing underneath that real big root. Maybe I cut this off and cut this off. But again, I leave this really nice exposed root right here, and if that's curling around in the ground right there, that could provide some really neat look later on. And then I've got this root right here. These could be surface roots in this forest floor. This one's cut right here though. I'd have to grow more roots down below. This one just pulled right out. It's got a little bit of roots on there. We'll put it in a bucket of water. We're starting to separate this just enough where I can start to, looks like I can maybe break these up a little bit more. And there we go. So now we have a couple of sections of the forest floor that now I can reposition where I want to. Cut off the extra roots that I don't need. There's a lot of roots in here still. This tree's going to be just fine. So this is a patch of 5 trees right here. But maybe I can put these 5 trees on a slight incline and put these 7 trees on another plane, and we have a path right in the middle right here. So that's the kind of feel that I'm trying to possibly create here. Okay, now I'm starting to get super excited. This has been a lot of work. This is very exhilarating. I've got the bucket full of trees from the first planting. I've got the pizza slice here in the rectangle, and I've got this other wedge here in the other oval. So I know I can separate these trees. I'm going to do the same with here. I want to control my root growth, so I'm going to do that. So the bucket goes away. It's going to sit there and protect those roots. I got to get these out of these trays into some water. We're going to separate these, and then we'll have all kinds of trees to choose from, and then we can make our forest 1, 2, 3 for our adventure here. So let me get these out of the soil, and we'll be back momentarily. The sun is still out, but I think we're only at about 40 degrees. We're maybe pushing 40. Either way, the mess has been made inside. We got to stay inside. The trees are all soaking in some water. They're all separated, and they're ready to put into the 3 pots that I have. 2 ovals and the 1 rectangle. The last thing I need to do though, before I put those together, is I'm always looking for some rocks to put in my planting. So this is more of a pinging landscape, right? We got some rocks, we've got some trees, some smaller trees, maybe some shrubs down the road. These are small forests, but I want some rocks in there. So I'm going to go around the yard and pick up some rocks. It's beautiful out. It's nice to get outside again, and it's just not warm enough to work. I could tell my hands would probably just be a wreck if I had been taking the last 2 hours or so, which is what we're about in so far, about 2.5 hours into this project. My hands would have fallen off. So I'm going to go around the pond. We're going to look for some rocks, and we'll get right back at it. I may have found some rocks that I can use, but when I brought the rocks back in, the first thing I remembered is that, yeah, we're going into a much smaller pot. My rocks are probably a little bit too large. But we'll grab some of the smaller rocks and check them out. I did pull out 7, 8, or 9 trees for this first pot. We're just going to do a basic pot with some bonsai soil and maybe a couple of little rocks. And then I have a couple of ideas for the future trees that are in this big bin. Okay, so this is my first planting. Going to be a forest of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees. I might put 2 more little ones in, maybe, we'll see. Did I lose any in the movement? I don't think I did. So if I were to turn this around so you could see it, We're going to put this big old trunk right here in front. This is going to be the main trunk, the biggest one, and then this one's pretty big back here. It's got some movement to the trunk here. I could twist it around the other way. And then I got this one here, which has a second branch over there, or maybe this gets cut off right here, and we have this become the primary. If I put it this way, it's a little bit too much in the forest, so we'll go this way with that. Then I've got this skinny one in the back that can go back in here, could go back over here. So we're going to move these trees around here. This one's another fairly thick one for in the middle and up in the front. And I might make a little bit of a mound and make this tree up here a little bit taller than these back trees back here. And then I have some of my rocks. So we'll go ahead and get my rocks out here so I can see if I can make some rock structures as well. So I have all kinds of rocks in the garden, some flat, some big, some small. I could have a rock that's just sitting up kind of like that. I've got this flat rock that could be between a couple trees that shows a flat surface that you'd maybe walk on between the trees. And I've got some more jaggedy rocks. And again, these are small enough to put in here, put a couple in there. So we've got some rocks we can maybe put in that planting once we get it going. Okay. So we have 3 on this side and about 4 on this side for our 7. So 3 on this side, 4 on that side as you look at the forest. So I got to put some wire in here now to make sure we can secure all those in. So let's grab some wire and we'll get ready to start putting some of this trees in place. Okay. So the trunk has a little bit of movement here from here over to there, then back up here. This branch becomes in view. This one will probably go someday, and this will become the new leader perhaps. I like it that way a little bit better than this side. No, I think I like this better actually. This side doesn't show as much. This side that you're looking at now doesn't show as much reverse taper look to it. And we've got this secondary branch right here. I think we'll do it like that. It's kind of a compromise of the two. So that's going to be the main tree. So that's going to be on the biggest mound. I want that to be up tall in the center. So I'm going to mound up my soil right there. And that guy's going to go right about there. So I can see by wiggling that this one goes to this one, so I'm going to bring this around here to the back, and we're going to put a gentle tie into this one right now and see if I like where it's at. So again, that's the front of the design. The question is it too far back? Let me grab my other 2 trees for this side. I got this real skinny one that can go back here. Different sizes, different spacings, different heights. So as I put these in here like this, I have this little skinny one back here for perspective. Right about there. Okay, I like it there. It's a little off-centered. It's one of the biggest trees, but it's a little off-centered, which is fine. I'll have a clump over here. I might have that trail in the middle. I might have some rock sitting right here in the back, like it's growing right up by this rock right here. So harder to see on camera, but there's the rock right there. See what other rocks I have. I have this neat little jagged edge rock here that could also be put right there. So the root on this tree from the back here is going to come around this root. I got the root from this tree growing between these 2 rocks right now, right here. There's a root going between the 2 rocks. one growing over the top. I can position that over the top. And there I have some rock structure in my planting. I like the face of that rock, that sheer cliff. All right. Okay, so I like that so far. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a little tighten down here, if I can find my pliers. And we'll tie this first one in. And that appears to be sturdy. Get that rock tucked in there and there. And there we go. Leave all these other roots to spread out in front of the rock here, side of the rock here. So now as I lay these roots out, hopefully they will thicken up and they will appear like they're growing around this rock. I'm going to spread the roots around this wire right here because I'm going to use this wire to tie it in. And this root is just poking up in the air too much. We're just going to cut it right off right there. Better do this root management now. This one's too long. For now, I'm going to leave the other roots in there for some growth since this is a major operation. And this wire is going back to this one right here. So we will go ahead and tie those together. And before I do any snipping, let's see where it's at and where I want it to be. I'm going to angle it slightly more so it's away from that front tree. So we have 2 trees of 7 or 9 securely in the pot. We've secured all trees into the pot. Now I want to make some final movements and tuck in the soil where I have to make these trees stay. I found this nice little rock with a nice little edge here where this tree fits kind of right into this curve of the rock right here. Hard to see the curve from your angle of the camera, but as this grows thicker and bigger, it'll grow right into that rock if I leave it there. And I'll put a little sphagnum moss on here as well so we can make sure we keep these roots that are pokey at the top nice and moist. So I have 4 rocks in this planting. Got a little one over here that's nice and flat here, a little place for people to hang and peer out over the edge maybe. A big rock here too that hikers could have lunch on. Little rock back here that this one was hugging up against, and this one is kind of holding this tree up. And it just gave some depth of field in the back. Put another rock maybe over here. If I have another smaller rock, Here's a very unique colored rock here. Maybe this can go here to help prop this guy up. And then whether that goes away someday or not remains to be seen. There we go. I think I need a rock that's going to hold this guy in for a while too. Let's do that. That one might not be kept there. It doesn't look as pretty from the angle of the viewer there. But again, just to hold that tree in place while the roots take hold. So now we can trim this guy up a little bit and see what we're going to keep on these trees. Just give it a little bit of a haircut. We'll give this thing a good watering, and we're going to hope for some good growth this year. Let's get rid of this, the one that goes this direction. All right. Back here. And this smaller tree, got a really weird branch growing way back over here. Just make that smaller. This is the tree in the back that we see through this big tree. I'm going to cut this thicker section off. There was a chop right here with 3 branches growing from that chop. I'm just going to cut it down a little bit further. So we have this main new guy as the leader. Cut this guy and this guy shorter. And there we have our first forest, our first little scraggly forest. We'll just leave it like that and let things grow and see what happens in the coming year. So we've got 7 trees there. I could put a couple of more. I could have put a couple of smaller ones back in here. But we'll let this go for right now. We'll give it a good watering outside and let it go. Popped up some roots there. Where does that come from? Right there. Gotta tuck these down. Tuck these roots down into the soil. I want to keep as many of these roots as possible. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to put just a little bit of sphagnum moss on this, and then we'll give it a watering. The rock's a little bit high on the pot, so we'll have to spread some of this around. And sphagnum moss will hold in that moisture, especially with all those roots trying to poke up at the top. It'll cover up the rocks for right now. When we dig this thing up in 2 years, we can reposition the rocks to make more rock exposed. This middle rock will be completely hidden now by this sphagnum moss, which is fine. My water bottles are empty. So there is forest number 1. We'll get some water on that and start with number 2.